and Randy show. We have this is Randy, as you well know. I'm Lindsay. And we have our special guest today, Madeline Sandlin. What isn't Madeline, honestly? I mean, all of the above, but artist, entrepreneur, creative genius, and also my closest and longest friend in Huntsville, Alabama. So,
Oh, well, thank you for that elaborate intro. I'm excited to be here. Y'all, yeah.
It's gonna be fun.
I know, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
New Year.
And that is actually what we are discussing today, the anti-resolution. Because all of us in preliminary discussion decided that we don't really believe in New Year's resolutions. And so I'm interested to hear Madeline's take and Randy's take on the anti-resolution. And then I'll join in.
Me first.
Sure.
Okay.
Go for it.
Gosh, I love the idea of this just like abundance of like goals that you're gonna set for yourself. But I also feel like the true strategy starts like from one bite at a time. Kind of like how do you yeah, exactly. And for me, it's every day. I mean, and every day, what can I do different? Then what did I learn from yesterday, right? And yeah, so I start with a resolution every day, or a mantra, or I want to be better than I was the day before.
I hear lifestyle.
Okay.
I hear lifestyle. It's so funny to me. I like to keep it simple because I use myself as an example. I've been for years. I'll be like, babe, next year's the year I'm gonna be a Adonis. I'm gonna work out. It's October.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna wait, but I gotta wait till after Thanksgiving and Christmas and New Year's because I gotta eat.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That doesn't work. It's gotta be, like she said, a lifestyle.
Right.
I have to say, let me start today with walking.
Yeah.
So that when the new year comes, I could possibly be going to the gym.
Or running.
Or anything other than drastic change January 1st.
Yeah. Too hard.
I'm
Too
an
harsh.
entrepreneur. I'm going to tell you something. In January, I got one thing on my mind. How much work am I going to do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we're entrepreneurs.
I was gonna say taxes,
Most
but
entrepreneurial businesses slow down in January.
Right.
So you have to ask yourself, what do I need to start doing now to make sure January is going to be cool for me?
yeah.
That's reality to me. How's my girl's school going to be for the next semester?
Right.
Real life things, which are part of my life. Stop finding that one thing that's going to make you feel better.
Right.
And make those around you feel like you're changing and say, that's what I'm going to do next year. That's a bunch of crap in my book.
Or if you're taking it from that angle, like why aren't we breaking it down quarterly?
Perfect.
And actually, that's usually the recommendation, right? Is that there are two amazing books, one Atomic Habits, the other one The Happiness Project, and both of those speak to that concept of if we break things down in bite-sized pieces, that they're much more attainable. And so when we think about, like, the thing that comes to my mind is recovery, like literature and programs, right? Where they always say 1 day at a time. And it's really, really important that when we set goals for ourselves, it's that, where it's just 1 day at a time. Most people don't wake up and can run a marathon, right?
Right.
So
Not in January. It's
not in
cold.
January, it's cold outside, right? But ultimately, like, you have to train for that marathon. And so anything that you choose to do or change requires micro changes or atomic changes in order for us to have that big change. And so what I do want to make clear about this is that, again, we are anti-resolution, but we aren't anti-goal setting, we aren't anti-change, any of those types of things. But we want to inform everyone that there's a better way to do it, and so that you don't get discouraged, because a lot of people, statistically, within 6 weeks, have dropped their resolution.
Yeah. It's not digesting.
No, because they have said, I'm going to run a marathon in a month, and I have news for you: unless you run marathons regularly, you're not going to run a marathon in a month. You're
It snowed this week. It's raining this week. It's January. I mean, it's January, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And all of us have
And a
been
marathon
eating.
is technically running the Decatur.
Yeah. And
I think about that. I think about
also
that.
that.
To Athens.
To Athens.
I'm running
It's
to
not-
Gunnersville.
Come
Yes.
on now.
I'm running to Gunnersville.
We run into a whole
No,
other county.
yeah.
That's not happening.
Yes, and so for our non-Alabamians, like it's the next town or county
Exactly.
over.
And it's a long drive. So
Don't
you
even
imagine-
get me on Ultra
Oh.
Marathon.
Right.
100. I'm running to Birmingham.
Listen.
I'm running to Nashville, Franklin.
And again, we want, and we want you to do it, but we want you to do it in digestible pieces that actually make sense
Yeah, I
for
love it.
Right.
your life. And then the other part too is that we need to look at why.
Right.
People need to understand why they're doing something, because if there is no why, and I'm gonna say I just want to lose, I don't know, 30 pounds. Well, why?
Yeah.
And when we don't have a why, we're less likely to pursue those goals. Like there has to be, and other language for why is end game. Like what is your end game? Like what do you hope to accomplish by this? How is this going to make your life better? And those are questions to ask yourself
Right.
when you do set goals or resolutions for yourself.
I've got a question.
Sure.
It's science.
Okay.
Do we feel like vanity supports whys? Can a
Interesting
vanity, like, I want to lose weight so that I'll look better, or versus I want to lose weight so I'm healthier for cardiovascular reasons?
Yeah. And as a vain person, absolutely.
I'm just wondering. I'm curious if there's science that backs up, that kind of goal.
Actually, so there is science that backs this up, and actually vanity can help, but it can't be the only why.
Right. Okay.
Because ultimately, it turns into that, like, what's enough? And,
Sure.
and then we can get into the danger zone, and all of my eating disordered folks or recovery eating disorder or practitioners in eating disorder understand this, that like it is a slippery slope.
Yeah.
When we start making aesthetic changes specifically for vanity, that's where our ED comes in. That's where our body dysmorphia comes in, because it's just like, oh, well, I want to do a little nip tuck. And then before you know it, you're walking around looking like a cat lady.
Yeah.
So vanity can often be taken too far, and so it can be considered in part of our goal setting. But there's a trainer that I worked with for a while, and what I loved about her philosophy is she's like, let's look at non-scale victories. So let's take the metrics out of it. And so instead of saying I want to look better, well, I want my clothes to fit better.
Small
But
victories.
Small victories. I want to sit down in a pair of jeans and not feel like I'm going to suffocate.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
those
Yeah.
are non-scale, aesthetic adjacent, we'll say, goals, as opposed to, well, I just want to be a size 2. Because newsflash, you might become a size 2 and not look that great. You might look better as a size 6. And so again, like there is research that supports aesthetic goals, but it's not going to be as effective as something else that has to do with our health, our mentality, our emotionality.
Right.
Well, I think because you actually hit on the points that were running through my head. I was like, you got to have a plan. You got to, but you can't be afraid of your process. See, we get so caught up in our process, but is it the process that we're afraid of, or is it from the vanity? It's the person, place, or thing that you're trying to impress. So that is what pushes you to the extremes, because you forget about the process. Because think about it, if you're in a process, and we know that this process is going to take 8 months, but that figure is in front of you daily. That's pressure. That's pressure. You have to be willing to say, regardless of the criticism, regardless of the naysayers, regardless of the moments of depression and slowing down, you're good with your process, and you can't worry about that part. Because in my opinion, vain comes from not self. It comes from trying to impress or be like something else. So if you can eliminate that part of the picture, I think it's easier to create a process, because it's easy to say, like we were speaking of earlier, okay, I want to lose 30 pounds, but guess what I do every day? I sit on the couch. So I have to pick the smallest thing first, and the smallest thing is set your alarm and just walk.
Yep.
Right. Basic executive functioning.
Yes, small things.
Yeah.
No matter, I could have 40 years as a CEO in a cosmetics company. So I'm experienced as a CEO. But now they want me to be a CEO at a tech company. I have to go back to the beginning, even though I'm the CEO.
Well, it's defining the process.
There you go.
I mean, I hate to drop a Nick Saban
Drop it.
here, but I mean, the man lives and dies. You know, his
On the
whole
process.
coaching ethics is the process, and it's not about points on board. You know, I mean, same if you're running a marathon. It's not about when you do it. It's miles on legs. It's not about how you do it. Don't worry about whether it's a touchdown or a field goal. It's points on board.
Yeah.
So I think defining that process, whether it's tech, whatever industry you're in,
You got to go back and figure out what's going on.
that's
first.
that. Yeah, it's formulaic.
You got to learn yourself, and just like you have to learn your body. Eating disorders are close to me because my daughter, at a very young age, was having issues, and thank God that we can have a conversation with her.
Right.
Absolutely.
So, and I was like, why? And it wasn't because she thought that she was bad. She didn't feel like she looked like what she was seeing. And I say this to say to all of you out there, don't worry about everybody else. Because if you hurt your body, you hurt yourself, and you're not here, those that you are looking up to or looking at are still going to be here.
Right.
They're still going to be here.
Right.
And most of the time, they don't even know who the hell you are.
Right.
That's
They
right.
have a clue.
And that really speaks to, because again, and a lot of the people that we're looking to, and it's whether they're famous, whether they are, Instagram or TikTok famous, because, we have to add that into the fame realm at this point too, that always have my clients do a resources assessment where it's like, okay, you want to look like Beyonce.
Oh, this is good.
This is going to be a nice
where
one.
it's just like, cool. Let's talk about what it takes to look like Beyonce.
Right.
I love this conversation.
And I'm not saying that you can't do it. All I'm saying is that we have to assess beyond, it is Beyonce's job to be Beyonce.
Right. That's her brand.
Yeah, your job is something else in addition to you trying to be like Beyonce. And so because of that, we have to look at, what, do you have the same access to the type of food? Do you have the same access to the type of cookware that her cook uses? Right. Do you have the same type of access to her fitness program?
Are you anatomically even proportionally?
Is your I was like, is your genetic makeup such that once you get to Beyonce status, that your body is actually going to look like hers? Because genetics is not on a lot of our side.
Right.
As someone who would love to have looked like Naomi Campbell, I'm not going to grow anymore because I'm almost 40. So, and so it's just not on your side. And so doing that resource assessment when we are comparing ourselves or aspiring to be like, and I know that we are using a lot of aesthetic references in terms of look like or weight or this or that.
Well, we're visual.
But this is reality though. This is reality.
Yeah. But part of the reason I'm saying that has to do less with visual or reality. It's just much more easier to make a metric out of that, right? But but with anything, if you want to be as smart as Bill Gates, well, do you have a genius IQ? Because if you don't, then we're not saying you can't get there, but your journey may look a little different.
Well, he was a visionary.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
he did not mind failing.
Yeah, IQ. I don't know. But he was
he saw something. He went after it.
I want this to do that, and I want it to look like this. And that's where.
Yeah, but also, you can't do what he does without aptitude.
You made a very good point, and it's just, I just feel like there are a lot of people that are watching that have these things in their head that they're not telling anybody about. And unfortunately, we're stuck with this phone in our hand with all these apps, and we gravitate towards those that have way more than us because they have all the things that we want. But we don't think about the small things that they can afford. See, that's the thing people don't look at.
Yeah.
If I wanted to be, say, since we're using Beyonce, I'll say Jay-Z.
Yeah.
And I wanted to lose 60 pounds in the next 6 months. Jay-Z can make a phone call to his chef.
Yeah.
And say, I need you to fix my diet.
He's got a team.
Yeah,
There you
there's
go.
a team.
He has his fitness guy.
Right.
He can afford the things that you're not looking at. You're only seeing the final result.
Yes.
Find what you can afford and apply it, no matter how small it is. You, I'm not saying you can't be those people, but I'm saying your process can't be their process.
No, absolutely.
So don't hurt yourself trying to impress. Do it at your pace. Make yourself happy. And let the process come to you. Because if you do it the right way, you just might start to navigate towards those resources
Right.
that can put you in the same position that they're in.
Yep.
Well, it's all scalable.
It's
Yeah,
all
it's all
scalable.
scalable.
Yeah.
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 Listen. I can talk about helping people all day, especially when it comes to physical and mental. You know, because there's so many small pieces to the puzzle that nobody ever wants to talk about. People always want to talk about the sickness that comes from eating disorders, but they don't want to talk about.
What got them there?
There you go.
Yeah.
The why. Back to what you
Yeah.
said.
The why.
Why do I never thought about what's it is I'm not the best in this part of the world, but I think bulimia is when you which one you make yourself
Yeah.
throw up?
Yeah.
People need to ask you, why are you doing that?
Control.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
what but then what are you trying to control? Do you not know that you can actually control the portions and not have to go to the restroom and do what you're doing? But why? Who are you chasing? What are you chasing? What has made you feel like you have to be there tomorrow?
Yeah.
Nobody asks these people these questions. They just want to cure them. You can't cure someone if you don't know why they're sick.
Well, a lot of it has to do with eating disorders are actually anxiety adjacent, and usually has a lot less to do with the food and the weight, and has a lot more to do with when things feel very out of control for us. Control's an illusion. So there's very few things that we can control except for what we put in and put out of our bodies, and so a lot of the times people cling to that control. And initially, especially with eating disorders where people lose weight, they get so much feedback, good feedback, and that feels good to them, and then it perpetuates
Right.
the disordered thinking and the disordered eating. And so but when we source it, a lot of it does have to do with, again, like people who have had lots of trauma, people who have, there's a whole generation of us who have a very complicated relationship with food and with weight. I'm part of the heroin chic generation where that's what was
Guilty.
promoted to us was Kate Moss. And
Like,
these
I'm
very
5'4". I'm never gonna be Kate Moss.
no
Yeah.
no
No matter. Yeah.
and so it's so heavily layered, and the treatment is so layered, and so when we we could do, there are entire podcast series.
Yes.
We don't need to do one because there's entire series and literature regarding eating disorders and where they come from and how they manifest and how they stick with people, even to the new label of disordered eating, where there are people who don't have full-blown eating disorders or what would be diagnosable under criteria. However, there's definitely some disordered eating that goes on, where you have weird food rules, where I don't eat green foods on Tuesday.
Well, since we're in this spectrum, which
you never know what
you
direction these
never
thoughts
know
are
what
gonna go.
direction it's going to
I
go.
like it.
But since we're here, and I think that it's very, very beneficial to the audience. I'm talking to the therapist right now, and Randy comes in, and I have this eating disorder. How do you get to my root cause?
Well, we talk about your life. The eating disorder is secondary because it's behavioral, right?
Yes.
And so we talk about, the origin of it, what was going on in your life prior to, what our family dynamics look like.
I like that.
And so a lot of, this is a misconception about therapy is that people come to us and say, this is what's happening. But we don't stay there.
Right.
Like we have to dig because we need to know why it's happening. And we need to know, and it's multifaceted why it's happening, because the perpetual question in the psychology field is nature versus nurture. Like, how much of this is biological temperament that you were just born with, and how much of this has to do with environment. And that ranges differently for so many different people. And so usually when a client comes in, here's the thing, I don't specialize in eating disorders. Actually, my neighbor at my office specializes in eating disorders. So a lot of the times, and we kind of trade clients when it comes to that, because again, eating disorders are heavily layered, and they're usually a symptom of a larger problem that someone is experiencing.
Right.
So hopefully that was...
Oh, no. We're on the same page. You know, even on the coaching standpoint, I kind of try to dig into, from my experiences, what people say to you. You know, people don't understand how you can have this 5, 6, 7-year-old, and you're saying, you're so fat. And you keep saying that, even though you're joking, because it's, you know, chubby is cute at times.
Yeah.
It depends on the age. But
I've got a philosophy, but
but you know, you don't understand how things stick with people.
Oh, yeah.
And then what if it's actually genetics? After 10, 11, 12, and now they're hearing, I've been called chubby and fat my whole life. And now I can't get rid of it, because you look over at auntie and you look over at this person, and you're like, they're kind of big too. So you have to go extreme.
Yeah.
So that's how I like to approach it. I like to get into the more personable side of it. You know, and I guess that's what makes us so good together, because hell, I don't know the book side of it.
no, I know.
I know people.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I know people, and I know that if I have a guy that I went to school with and we joked on him all the time, we called him fat. And then I see him 25 years later and he's 140 pounds.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask, what did you do extreme? Because you've been like this your whole life. You know what I'm saying? Was I part of your problem? You know, and you know, and it might be unorthodox to think of it in that way, but I always feel like any result, it came from something that was just unimaginable. And the simplest thing of being unimaginable is your cousin that you see every 6 months, every time I see you fat as hell.
Right.
That's a problem. That's a problem.
Yeah.
Can we pivot to the visual component of what we're consuming every day from like via social media?
Yes. Oh my gosh.
All right. So I will say one thing that social media has done for we have become way more inclusive. You know, we see you know, plus size models, you know, hitting the runway, and you know, that's real. That's we should be seeing.
I love it. I love it.
I think that and so with that, I think there's an important visual element to put all of that into perspective.
I love
which
that.
is, you
I
know,
love
you are
that.
what you eat.
Yeah. And you can be plus size and very healthy.
Oh yeah.
100%.
People have this conception that all people that are plus size are unhealthy. There's some plus size people here. I mean, we could go to, you know, I'm a sports
Lizzo's
guy.
dancers?
But we could go to sports guys.
you.
These guys
Oh my gosh.
are 6'4", 375 pounds, and they're probably in better shape than most people walking around here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
know.
So don't judge it on that.
No, I know.
And I hate to be like the nerd in the room.
Please ground us.
I was
Ground
like-
us, Lindsay. Ground us. Yeah.
Well, not even grounding, but I mean, like, there's so much science attached to what you all are saying. And we have to remember, like, the American medical model is deeply flawed. And again, like, I will stay away from the details of that, because I'll be speaking to you all in a monologue for 2 hours and no one wants that. But honestly, when we look at the metrics and based on the research, they aren't researching in multicultural samples.
Sure.
And so most of our medical data is based on white middle-aged males.
Yeah.
Wow.
Which aren't most of us, which are nobody sitting on this panel.
Yeah.
And because of that, again, like when we have comparative metrics, BMI is a good example of that, where, you know, however they calculate BMI isn't necessarily accurate for everyone, because people's body composition is different. And so you might be 6'4" and 300 pounds, but 275 pounds of that is muscle. But
Right.
if we just look at the BMI, you could probably be morbidly obese.
Yeah.
And so,
Yep.
and so again, like a lot of those metrics don't come into play. And again, most people aren't armed with this knowledge.
Right.
And because of that, ignorance, and not by any fault of their own, just because, we don't hand people medical journals and say, here, read this, and this is what the research says, they feel villainized in their own bodies.
I love it. That's good. That's quality.
That is good.
Hell, I'm a candidate.
Please.
Hey, people, I'm a candidate. I've been told that I am morbidly obese.
Please.
Morbidly obese. And I'm like, why? They said, because at your height, you should only be like 245 pounds. I'm like, well, 280.
Huh?
And they're like, no, you got to lose some weight. But then I go to my wife and I say, what would be 240? She said, you better not.
No.
She said, because you look sick at 240.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So you
Get
have
that.
to find your place.
Yes.
Keep cooking those greens, Randy.
All right, guys.
Yeah.
So we're getting signaled. We covered a lot of stuff
Gosh,
today.
we just did.
covered
Where
a
did
lot
we
of
start?
stuff.
I
We
don't
started
even know.
with the anti-resolution.
Yeah.
So
Where are we going?
But you know what? That was perfect, though.
Yeah.
Because most people's resolution is what?
Yeah, body
Lose
stuff.
Yeah,
weight.
I know. I know. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
like, what? So let's wrap it up. What would be your wrap up? What are our takeaways today? Mad, we'll start with you.
Oh, takeaway is, trust your process.
I love it.
And take it one day at a time, one step at a time. Consume what you are able to consume.
I love it. Hey, I got to piggyback because that was like perfect. Because that's what it's all about. It's about understanding the importance of self.
Yeah.
All the other things don't matter.
Yeah.
They only matter when you're happy with self.
Ooh. So I'm going to piggyback off that.
Yeah.
I'm going to piggyback off Randy's piggyback.
Yeah.
That maybe your resolution should be just to get to know yourself this year.
Yes.
And remember, comparison is the thief of joy. So figuring out what works for you
There she
as
go.
opposed to trying to do what everyone else is doing
I
and
love it.
comparing.
I love it.
Listen, as I always, I love it.
Thanks for
When I'm
having
doing
me.
it with Lizzie, but I got the mad letting over here.
Yeah.
And it ain't nothing like it. Thanks for tuning in to the Lindsay and Reggie. So, yeah, see you on the next episode.
Happy New Year, guys.